Okay, welcome back. This is Stasia Bliss. This is actually episode 3 of the evolution of the heart chakra. It just wants to keep going. Again, after finishing the second part, I was really sitting with a question that was coming in from the collective about what about trauma? So I want to talk between trauma and the cosmic love, because we didn't really go back into that in the last episode. Like I said, we would get there, so it's because there's more to be spoken about. So let's just begin kind of where we left off, with the initiatory steps being heartbreak. That's a hard one for people. Of course, later in our experience, as we learn how to just work with the feeling of heartbreak, the pang, the stretching, and we change our minds as to what that actually means to us, then cosmic love becomes more tangible. Because the pain is something we, as humans, we resist. Mostly because we are in physical form and it hurts, right? And so we are, we dislike pain and discomfort, and we want to feel good. But in the alchemical formula of the inner marriage of bringing that Kundalini life force together, we have to learn to be good with the polarities. So to balance the opposite means I'm changing my mind about how I feel about these sensations, and I'm maybe even reworking them in my mind to have a different definition. So pain becomes stretching or expansion or opportunity to bring my life force. Okay, this could be a little different with trauma though, and that's why I want to bring trauma into the subject. So trauma is a nervous system issue, really. When something occurs that shocks the nervous system to such an extent that we can't mentally process it, our nervous system is not now functioning in its regular homeostatic means. So rather than going back into being able to go sympathetic, parasympathetic based on the circumstance, we're really just in a sympathetic response. We're really in a fight or flight all the time. Our stress hormones and our adrenaline and so forth, they are basically frozen and paralyzed in the production mode. Trauma is a repeating pattern, like a reverberance, and your energy fields will also be like repeating, like a record that's stuck on repeat. And for those of you who are too young to remember records, I mean, they're still around. You know what I'm talking about. The needle and the record just plays the same part over and over again. So we're not moving through it. We're not processing it out and returning to homeostasis. We're just in a constant repeat of a pattern. This is exhausting to the body, exhausting to the nervous system, and it does cause burnout over time. In other words, the body is breaking down from a lot of this hormonal response. And so we want to address trauma, first of all, from the nervous system side of things. The nervous system is greatly regulated through yogic breathing practices like Nadi Shodhana. I have a video on that on my channel if you need to know more about that. That is a purification of the nadis, but this is also one reason why I work with like emotion code and body code work, is because sometimes we just have a stuck, unprocessed trauma that is inhibiting us from doing the healing work, from going ahead and working through the heartbreak and having the stamina to be able to do so. So sometimes these practices where we go in and we release the heart wall, or we release the trapped emotion, which could be a trauma or a shock or a psychic trauma, is like too emotions bound together at a certain time, and maybe it happened when you were young, so you didn't have the mental faculty to process that. Also, some subconscious work. Yoga Nidra can be really helpful. Mindscaping can be really helpful, which I'm getting into. A lot of the work where we go in and we just release subconscious patterns. So a trauma can go really deep into the sub and unconscious mind, where now we're living from that trauma response. We're actually not even living from the present moment. We're living from like when the bomb went off in our life. And we're still trying to protect and recover ourselves. Again, that's the amygdala. Probably needs a reset. There's a trauma there, and it's continuing to respond as if still in the trauma. So we have a lot of adults walking around who are still living in the reverberance of a trauma wound. And so there's definitely some of that wants to be addressed before one can process through some of these initiatory stages of heart opening. So this is maybe like a disclaimer on the previous two videos. If you cannot even access the mental faculty to initiate, then you might be stuck in a heart wound pattern, and it's not your fault. It's a trauma wound, and a lot of times we bond with other people in a relationship, in a maybe dysfunctional relationship, because of a common trauma, and that's called a trauma bond, where we're resonating at that same shock frequency or that same trauma frequency, and we can't get out of it. We're just resonating it back and forth. We came together to heal, could heal if both have the skills, knowledge, ability to do so, but usually it's not, because maybe you're in a rajasic, tamasic heart space, which just means like you're fending for yourself. You're still like trying to take care of number one, because that was like you came under attack in the trauma. Your survival came under attack, whether it be an abusive situation or physical shock trauma, or you witnessed something very traumatic. These can all leave deep psychic impressions and have the nervous system still in a shock response. So again, the healing modalities that can be helpful to reset the nervous system, the Nadi Shodan, the emotion code work, the Yoga Nidras, and the mindscaping, and these different sorts of practices, and a lot of yoga can help release some of these deep traumas. But I found that emotion code and body code is specifically really helpful for going in and just finding specific knots and spots where the trauma held itself, because a lot of times it goes in and connects to a fascia, or it misaligns bones to fit in there. Like, depending on what you were doing when the trauma occurred, it can bond to systems if you were digesting food, or, you know, there's just so many nuances that the body code helps to unlock. So dealing with those traumas is number one in helping you go through the initiatory stages of a heart opening. And then you're not so repelled, right? We cycle through lifetimes or patterns and programs of experiences because we are repelled from a pain, right? And a lot of times it is a heartache, because we also haven't been taught how that can be beneficial, how the heartache is the break of expansion. So there's certain situations in the body where like a bone has to be broken in order for it to heal right. So it's sort of a similar situation where if we're in a closed heart state, the break is actually what we need to return to wholeness. So the closing down is like a tightening, or even like a calcification of a potentiality that has to be broken open. So people that come into our life that act as catalysts for breaking that closed heart, and we might not know it's closed, we might just think it's normal behavior. But when we look at the perspective of, am I living from a cosmic love? Am I offering unconditional love to others and to myself? Can I truly sit in the bliss of love no matter what's happening? If I can't say yes to that, I'm not in the full potentiality of my heart. And that doesn't mean like accepting abuses and not like thinking you deserve better. That's not cosmic love. Like cosmic love is literally a space in which your heart is flooded with the love of life and the love of the universe and the love of God, and that supersedes all else and washes all the pain away, and you actually don't even experience pain of loss in the same way anymore. Like you will feel the ache, but you will also know it is an expansive space, and the tears that might flow from a heart expansion become compassionate understanding, and they help purify you, and that's a very different experience than crying and suffering from like an attached love that didn't work, right? Or the loss or the jealousy or the pain of heartbreak from a stance where you're maybe in a rajasic heart space. We talked about that in the first video here. So definitely traumas need to be dealt with before this cosmic love, although sometimes you have an experience where the cosmic love just comes and floods the heart, and it does purify and reset. Sometimes you do have that grace moment that comes in that like opportunes you out of the trauma wound. That is always an option for reality, and you know that's not always the case that it happens like that, but sometimes we do have that experience, or we have someone that comes into our life that is that love that allows us to release the traumas and feel safe enough to explore through some of those feelings that weren't able to be felt. And sometimes that's your practitioner, a therapist, or someone who sits with you in a ministerial way. And that's what I do with clients too, is to sit and hold space for some of those traumas to come out and to be healed in that space. And that is also holding life force energy, holding the pranic energy, the Kundalini, that is a purifying force, that is the Shakti, the fire, the love of God. When imbued in one's person, can hold the space for another to experience that. So I hope that is helpful and clarifying on the trauma cosmic love spectrum. Let me know if there's any questions on that, or if you feel like there's more that I haven't addressed in this particular subject. Ooh, Valentine's Day really took me on a little ride there with the heart, but the heart really is, I mean, they've found there's brain cells, more brain cells in the heart now than in the brain. So there is this intelligence here. And what the heart is the first thing to start functioning in the human body, there is definitely a significance to this. Many times the universe is compared to a giant pulsing heart, the in-breath and the out-breath of the universe, the exhaling and the inhaling, away from the heart of God, back to the heart of God, in this sort of process that we're all in, these cycles of existence. So yeah, I guess that's complete for me in this subject. So I hope that is helpful for you. Again, like if I can be of any service, please send me an email, stasiabliss@gmail.com, or go to my website, blissinthehouse.com, if I can support you in any way. And much love to you. Namaste.